June 14th, at exactly 3:14 p.m., the world changed forever. It wasn't marked by a loud explosion, a sudden war, or a natural disaster. Instead, it was a silence so heavy it felt like it had physical weight, pressing down on the shoulders of every person on Earth. In that moment, regardless of time zone or weather, everyone looked up at the sky simultaneously. What they saw defied every law of physics we had ever written. Across the atmosphere, carved in letters of pure, blinding white light, was a digital countdown. It started at exactly 7 days, ticking down with a rhythmic, low-frequency pulse that seemed to vibrate deep inside people's chests. At first, the global reaction was a chaotic mix of skepticism and awe. Major tech giants were immediately accused of a massive, coordinated hologram prank, while world leaders retreated to emergency bunkers, fearing a psychological weapon. But the truth was far more terrifying. When NASA and the European Space Agency checked their satellite feeds, they realized the light wasn't being projected onto the sky from Earth. The numbers were coming from somewhere behind the fabric of space itself. It was as if the sky had been revealed as nothing more than a screen, and something on the other side had just hit the timer. The true horror didn't set in until the event at Flight 828 occurred just 2 hours into the countdown. A commercial pilot, attempting to maintain calm, tried to fly his aircraft through one of the glowing numbers over the Atlantic Ocean. Thousands watched on flight trackers as the plane reached the exact coordinates and simply stopped moving. It didn't stall, it didn't explode, and it didn't fall into the sea. It became a fixed point in space, suspended in midair like a prehistoric bug trapped in amber. When a military rescue drone was sent up to investigate, the footage it sent back became the most watched video in human history. Inside the cockpit, the pilots were frozen in time. Their coffee was mid-pour, suspended in the air, and their expressions were locked in a moment of realization. But as the drone moved closer to the cabin windows, its high-sensitivity sensors picked up a sound coming from the plane's communication deck. It wasn't a distress signal or a radio transmission. It was a rhythmic, mechanical scratching sound, like a heavy iron pen writing on thick paper, repeated over and over in a haunting loop. By the morning of day 3, the world had descended into a strange, quiet desperation. Clock cults began to form in every major city, and the scientific community made a discovery that paralyzed the global population with fear. The Earth's rotation was slowing down. The countdown wasn't just a clock, it was a cosmic break. As the seconds ticked away, our planet was physically being brought to a halt. Scientists theorized that if the clock hit 0 and the Earth stopped spinning entirely, the atmosphere would continue to move at 1,000 miles per hour due to inertia, essentially scouring the surface of the planet clean of all life, buildings, and oceans in a matter of seconds. Panic turned into a strange, quiet desperation. People stopped going to work, the global economy vanished overnight, and millions gathered in the streets, sitting in total silence just to watch the numbers fall. Amidst this collapse, a young astrophysicist named Dr. Eris Thorne noticed a detail everyone else had missed. By mapping the frequency of the light, he realized the numbers weren't counting down to our destruction. They were counting down to a system update. Dr. Thorne spent 48 hours without sleep, realizing that the scratching sound from the frozen plane was actually a complex binary code being etched into the cockpit's glass by an invisible force. When he finally translated the pattern, the message read, "Vessel full. Commencing upload." This changed the nature of human existence in an instant. The mind-bending truth began to leak out to the public. We weren't living on a physical planet at all. The Earth, the stars, the people we loved, and the very air we breathed were part of a massive, ancient simulation that had finally run out of memory. The countdown was the time remaining before the server was wiped to make room for a new project. The reason Flight 828 had frozen was that that specific sector of the simulation had already been saved and locked for the migration. We weren't witnessing the end of the world. We were witnessing a global hard drive being cleared for a fresh start. As the clock entered its final 24 hours, the reality around us began to literally break apart. Huge swaths of the blue atmosphere turned into jagged, black, pixelated squares, revealing a void beneath that looked nothing like the space we knew. There were no stars and no galaxies, only endless rows of glowing green codes stretching into an infinite darkness. The world didn't scream. It went hauntingly silent. Families held each other on rooftops, watching as the final 10 seconds began to pulse in the sky with a blinding intensity. 10, 9, 8. The ground beneath our feet began to feel transparent, as if the floor was turning into glass. 7, 6, 5. The people around us started to flicker and glitch, their bodies momentarily turning into wireframe models like bad television reception. 4, 3, 2. In the final second, the entire world didn't explode. It simply turned into a void of pure, featureless white light. For what felt like an eternity, there was only the white void. But when the light finally faded, everyone found themselves back in their own beds, in their own homes. It was June 14th, 3:13 p.m. 1 minute before it all began. The giant clock in the sky was gone, and the sun was shining as if nothing had happened. People wept with joy, falling to their knees and thanking whatever God they believed in for a miracle. They thought it was all a dream, or perhaps a collective hallucination, until they looked at their own skin. Every single human being on Earth now had a small, glowing version 2.0 symbol tattooed on their inner wrist. The world looked the same, but the feeling was different. The birds sang, the cars moved, and people returned to their lives. But the scratching sound hadn't stopped. It was no longer coming from the sky or a frozen plain. It was now a faint, rhythmic pulse coming from inside our own heads. A constant reminder that we had been rebooted, and we are all just waiting for the next update.